Okay, we should be live streaming now.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this February 11th general meeting of the Human Rights Commission. Um, we will begin tonight, as we always do, with our introductions. We're going to start with the room, and I'd ask folks to please introduce themselves and their position with the commission, if they have one, and then we'll come back online. Uh, Vice Chair Marshall, do you want to get us started?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Marshall. I'm the Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission, and I will pass it to Celine.
I'm Celine Pullman, one of the commissioners on the commission.
Christina Ballard, I'm a commissioner.
Hello, I'm Robert Dowd. I'm a sergeant with the Salem Police Department, and I am the liaison here with the Human Rights Commission.
I'm Chris Snyder, a staff liaison for the Human Rights Commission.
Thank you. Tony, do you want to get us started here online?
I'm Tony Marys, and I'm a commissioner.
Jackie, I know you're on the move. Do you want to keep us going?
Commissioner Jackie Roche. That's all I got.
Great. Let's go Caitlin and then Haley.
Hi, my name is Commissioner Caitlin Beiser-Rosales, and I guess I will pass it off to Commissioner Berenbaum, if I say that correctly. Sorry if I don't.
Hi, Haley Berenbaum, and you did say it correctly. Not a lot of people get that correct on the first job, so yay. And I don't think I'm a commissioner. I think I'm just a member of the Ham Club right now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for being here. Do we have any public comment, either in writing or they are present tonight?
There is nobody here except for us mice. Sergeant Dowd is here and the rest of the commissioners and myself.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any member remarks or announcements on something not on the agenda? Okay. All right, then oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Roche. I didn't see you.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to bring attention to an organization, a nonprofit that I met with the other day called Connections 365. I had no clue that they existed and what they do, and I encourage you guys to take a look at their organization. They do counseling for those with mental disabilities and a variety of different disabilities. And they have different live-in on their property for youth coming out of McLaren, where they do a transition period into back into society and such. And it's a really, really neat program. I was really impressed with all that they offer and how long they've been around. So I just wanted to share about the good meeting I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Roche. I think we had I made an effort to connect with them for the Disability Rights Task Force, and that was unsuccessful. But it's a good reminder of the great work that's happening every day in our community. So hopefully there'll be future opportunities as for this commission to work with them and to learn with them. So thank you for that. Any other member remarks or announcements on non-agenda items? Okay. Sergeant Dowd, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. I was not at last month's meeting. I had another obligation, but I went back through all of the bias crimes and incidents dating back to the start of the year. And I have one to report on January 25th of this year in Northwest Salem. There was a call for service of a verbal dispute between two neighbors that started out as a road rage incident and ultimately resulted in one party using anti-LGBTQ slurs toward the other party. But there were no crimes that were found to have occurred. Both parties were talked to and a referral was made to the bias reporting hotline. And that's the only one. It would be classified as a bias incident. There were no crimes and there was no arrest.
Thank you, Sergeant. Are there any questions for Sergeant Dowd? I will ask Sergeant Dowd to stay at the dais there for a second. We're going to come back to him in 4C, I think, briefly. But until then, Chris, are there any updates from staff about complaints of discrimination?
So in the month of January, there were no complaints of discrimination received. There was a general complaint submitted through the human rights email that was then shared along with to City Council, because that's who they were really talking to, about using taxpayer money funded dollars for funding ICE impacted families. So that was the only piece of information that was received. That wasn't regular spam mail.
There was I'm sorry, I didn't have an opportunity to listen to the City Council meeting. There was a complaint. Say more about the complaint so I understand, please.
So there was a complaint that was kind of they sent an email not knowing who to send it to, and it came through on the human rights email page, just stating that they were expressing how their dislike with the City Council for using taxpayer dollars to fund ICE impacted families. So they said there's no way to get a hold of anybody and we can't talk to anybody. So they sent that email through, and so that was forwarded on to City Council. So that was the only complaint received through the human rights email platform.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Chris about that complaint? Oh, this is going to be a really quick meeting, y'all. We're just making our way through it. All right. Thank you, Chris, for that update. So I think we're going to spend some time giving updates here about the Know Your Rights forum, forums, like plural, I suppose. And then I think we're going to have an opportunity to hear from Sergeant Dowd about some updates generally. So firstly, thank you for your patience as we've been figuring out, working with CC Media and getting everything recorded and getting everything edited and making it to a product that we're proud of. As of earlier this week, and for the English version last week, but now English and Spanish, both of the Know Your Rights forums are live, meaning that they live permanently on the CC Media YouTube. They're on the immigration resource page for the city. They will be broadcasted several times on television, and they will be going out in a radio format with radio partners as well. And then, working with staff to figure out an outreach strategy to get the content out to community partners and city kind of communication channels as broadly and as quickly as possible. The runtime for the trainings is just over 30 minutes each, and we're really grateful, of course, to CC Media, but also the Oregon Law Center for their expertise in delivering this much needed information to the public. There will be indigenous language versions of these forthcoming. So what that will mean practically is we will identify indigenous languages, and the Spanish language version likely will be dubbed in those languages. And so, if you're a Maya Cachiquel speaker and you would listen to it in Cachiquel, for example. And so there is a group of folks who do those sort of translation services in Portland. There are over 50 some odd indigenous languages from Mexico and Central America spoken in Oregon. And so I think our goal is to focus on those spoken most in Marion County and in the Mid-Valley here, which I think is maybe half a dozen or so languages mostly Mayan languages as well as certain Mixteco languages and Purépecha as well. So those will take time to do. I don't know if you'll be getting updates every time those are out, but know that they are coming and that the city has generously put aside some financial resources to compensate translators for their time and expertise as those come along. I'll round out my comments and my update by saying that even though today is my last night as chair of the commission, it is still very much my intention to continue the work of having, we spoke earlier about having a series of events, and with permission of whomever is chair next, we'll continue working with our community partners to get those done as well in the months ahead. So know that the work is still being carried out after these deliverables, which I'm very glad are out into the world. Are there any questions about where we're at in responding to the immersion declaration and or questions about the forums themselves?
This is Vice Chair Marshall here. Not a question or comment. I did want to thank you, Chair Lara Mitka, for your work putting this together, reaching out to the community partners to ensure we were able to get the subject matter experts at the table to put together this forum, and then also just your willingness to facilitate, as well as your willingness to continue working on these endeavors. I believe is the only Spanish-speaking member on the commission. I strongly believe that it's important to make sure that we're providing this information, in a language that is native to individuals and in a language that people can understand. And I appreciate your continued willingness to utilize your skills and your abilities and everything to better serve the communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. Commissioner Roche.
Yes, I thought it was very well done. Thank you so much for all the work you guys put into it. I know that it took a lot, and I don't want to disregard that. I just have one request for future, whoever is the chair, I cannot remember. In future things that we put together, it would be nice to maybe have an email sent out to the commission, giving us a heads up of when it's going to be released, when you know, because I had to find out through someone asking me if I had received any notification about it, because they knew I'm on the commission and they found out about it from a social media post. So I was like, I didn't even know. And then it was, I don't know, a couple days later, I think that we got the email with the link. So I guess it was more like I'm part of the commission and I didn't even know that it was being released. So I guess that's my only ask for the future. By no means does that discount all of the work you put in and how great it was. So that's all.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Jackie, there was an email sent the day it was published. So I might direct that to Chris to make sure that Commissioner Roche is on the email list and that everyone is on
Was it
that.
on the 5th?
The day it was released, we sent an email out with the update.
It was recorded, on one day, and then it took like a week for the edits and everybody's approval and stuff like that. And then on the day that the English version was released, we immediately released it out to everyone else, City Council as well as HRC.
Yeah.
So I forget the day that it was. I think it was last week.
It was last Friday, I think, or last Thursday. I can't remember.
Must have been last Thursday.
Yeah. So anyway, my point, Jackie, is that
Oh, it was a day later. Okay. Yeah. So I just had to find out about it through someone. Like it was just like I'm on the commission and I can't even speak to it. So that's all.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Roche. Any other questions or comments about the forum? I think Chris is sharing his screen with some of those dates. And
Yes.
This is the immigration resources page from the city, correct? I'm
Correct.
looking at here. Okay. For those who are at home watching.
So you can see on there the dates that CC Media has it showing on their page, on their channels, the various channels and the dates and times. And then, of course, the easiest way to watch it probably for most is going to be the YouTube channel links that you received in emails as well. It's also residing on the city's webpage, as well as additional information related to immigration.
Thank you, Chris. I'm trying to check. It's probably not productive to check, but last I checked, there was maybe like 300 or 400 people who had watched it. That was a day or two ago. So I'm it's hopefully will continue to get traction. And I also just want to recognize, as important as this is, it does feel it does feel insufficient. It felt that way even when we were recording it. But I'm really glad that it exists in the world and that people will be able to and hopefully
Doctor.
engage with it widely. All right. So we've also asked Sergeant Dowd here briefly that there was interest to have SPD come and engage with the commission. There's been a lot of questions about the role of local policing and immigration enforcement, questions around sanctuary law. Quite a few of those were addressed in the trainings. And I must say I was pretty disappointed that the police department was unable to participate in the Know Your Rights training. I think that would have been helpful for folks in the community as another opportunity for them to hear from from the police force about their relationship with enforcement. But I know there was interest to engage with the police tonight, but I think, Sergeant, you may have some direction for us here if you don't mind.
No, I don't. This is Sergeant Robert Dowd speaking. So Chief Womack had intended to be here tonight, but he was unable to make it. And so he wanted me to direct people to a statement by the city manager's office back on the 2nd of February, where there was a release, a press release that went out on February 2nd about a recent incident here in Salem. And then the chief also suggested that I could direct people to Monday night's city council meeting where the city manager spoke about the police department's role and the city's role and about the incident in particular. And so that was really the direction I was given. I can tell you that since before the end of last year, the end of 2025, the city as a whole has gone through training related to the matter of immigration enforcement and the city's role in that, which is that we are not to cooperate or participate in any sort of immigration enforcement activities. And there was a video that came out from Oregon Department of Justice that was designed to be an educational training for members of city government. Really, that's all I have. I'm more than happy to try to answer questions. I believe, though, unfortunately, most of what I'm going to be able to offer is to just point back to the city manager's statements on Monday, and that came out at the beginning of February. But I'm not afraid to sit here and try to answer questions that you may have for me.
Has everybody read those statements?
So recognizing that Sergeant Dowd is not Chief Womack, are there any questions for Sergeant Dowd tonight?
Yes,
Ballard?
this
Go
is
ahead. Go ahead, Christina.
Commissioner Ballard. I do have a pretty specific question. I understand that the incident that occurred with the woman, I believe her name was Maria, that wasn't reported as it was happening. So my question is, because there have been reports, fortunately not here that I am aware of, but there have been reports in other states where people cosplaying as federal agents have been busted for doing so. So it's pretty frightening to think about getting boxed in, like the woman here claims to have been boxed in with the vehicles. I know that if I'm driving down the road and there's two unmarked vehicles that are attempting to box me in, I'm going to be afraid. And if they're not marked properly as federal agency vehicles, and if the people who get out of them are not clearly marked with badges and clearly marked what agency they're from, that's going to be pretty terrifying to me. If that does happen to someone and they call 911 as this is happening, what are the steps that can be taken? For example, can PD reach out and find out if those people are indeed federal agents or not?
So I'll answer your last question first. Yes, we can reach out to the federal agencies and find out if they are operating in the area. We do have that ability to do that. What I would encourage you to do in your hypothetical circumstance would be to call 911. So before issues similar to this where ICE was involved, we have had people call in questioning whether or not they were being pulled over by a real police officer. And we take those incidents very seriously. The dispatch center is trained on how to answer people's questions, make sure people get somewhere that they can be safe. If you're boxed in, you can be on the phone with the 911 dispatcher and explain to them what's going on. And police would be dispatched to go out and at least confirm that the people who are executing the traffic stop or the boxing in are in fact federal agents.
That they are legitimate.
Yeah.
So there would be an effort to confirm that in
100%.
physically. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Marys.
Thank you. My question is, on top of that, I guess. So I would imagine that, confirming whether or not they are operating in the area takes time. Do we know what that turnaround time is, or, and what are dispatchers and officers told to do when they become aware of this happening? What can we expect Salem PD to do? We know they can't interfere, but what have you been directed to do?
To answer your question about the turnaround time, it's oftentimes not immediate that we can call somebody. They don't have necessarily a dispatch center that we can call the way that we would if somebody was pretending to be a police officer and stop somebody, right? If you called in on 911 and said you were being pulled over by somebody you didn't believe was police, the dispatcher could then check and see immediately if there was an officer that was conducting a traffic stop in that area, and then at least advise you, no, that's not a police officer, please proceed to the police department, or yes, that is a police officer, pull over in a place where you feel safe and comply with what the officer tells you. So it would not be that as immediate as that, but we can find out about those after the fact. To the second part of your question, if we, police, responded to an incident where we determined that somebody was who was portraying themselves as immigration was in fact immigration, we would then remove ourselves from the investigation. And depending on call load, we may be reassigned to go to another call for service. We may hang back, but ultimately what's going to happen is if there is an instance where they're breaking out a window or detaining somebody or something of that nature, and there was an issue with that, the direction would be similar to what was given in the press release, which would be to file a complaint with the FBI. So the police department Salem Police Department does not have jurisdictional authority to investigate an incident where somebody's alleging a wrongful detention or a wrongful arrest. And so we would really have no place in that or on that scene to take any type of an enforcement action.
I have one follow-up question. What have you been directed specifically not to do?
Well, the training that we've been provided is to not provide any information about people that we are dealing with directly to immigration officers without a valid order from a judge. And so that's specifically what we've been trained not to do.
Okay, thank you.
One more follow-up. So you said specifically from a judge.
Correct.
So administrative warrants.
The chief actually included something that he had sent back to council back in November of last year. And it has some examples in here. So a valid arrest warrant signed by the United States District Court would be the only circumstance where we could provide information directly to a federal officer.
Okay, so because my understanding is a lot of the enforcement action that's been taking place has been done under the guise of administrative warrants, which the federal agents sign themselves. So if they approached PD with one of those, you would not give information.
So we had a special directive that came out that has an example of what the arrest warrant would look like. So we have an example of how that would appear if one was presented to us.
Okay, and so you would understand the difference between those administrative ones and judicial.
Correct.
Thank you.
I don't want to speak for you, Sergeant, but just for the sake of clarity for those listening at home, the answer to your question, Christina, is yes. SPD will not comply with administrative warrant signed by an immigration officer. They will only comply with the judicial warrant signed by the judge. That's the law, or Oregon law.
Yes, thank you. And that's the reason I am asking these questions is because I know there are people watching and people might watch later. And I want to make sure that people have as comprehensive an understanding about this as they can, considering these can be life and death situations. So thank you.
You bet. And I just want to clarify, so a judicial warrant would be the circumstance where we could be compelled to comply. That doesn't mean that an administrative warrant doesn't grant a federal authority from acting on that warrant. So I just want to make sure that there's that clarification also.
Correct.
The federal agents can act on the administrative warrant,
Correct.
but SPD would not assist them with that.
Correct.
Thank you.
I will also say there's a few minutes dedicated to this question about what rights you have when presented with an administrative warrant versus a judicial warrant in the Know Your Rights forum as well, if folks would like to check that out. All right. Any other questions for Sergeant Dowd? So I think, I'm not going to ask you a question, Sergeant, about this, but just to say it out loud, I think it's an unfair question to ask of you in particular, but I do think that there is a sense in the community, and frankly, I feel it personally around a lack of accountability that pervades federal action and federal forces. And of course, we have, federal supremacy in the United States, things that federal agents do, supersede certain things, at the local and state level. But I think there is a general sense shared by a lot of people that federal agents in their administration and enforcement of the law themselves abridge the rights of people in their enforcement of the law. And so probably a sense of outrage or frustration around how do we hold people accountable when they violate the law in pursuit of the enforcement of a law. And I think broadly the answer is there's nothing that SPD can do short of, as you just alluded to, reporting a complaint to the FBI, which is a federal authority that can operate here locally. But I will also just say broadly for folks who listen, because people do listen to these meetings, there is an open question, a legal question that, under what circumstances can state and local authorities hold federal agents accountable? And this is a question for which there isn't an answer at present, but that will likely be adjudicated in our legal system over the coming months and years. That's not really a satisfying answer when you see really difficult images on your phones or in the media. But I think it's something that we have to keep in mind in tandem with asking more of our elected and uniformed leadership. So you don't have to respond to that, Sergeant Dowd. I just wanted to make that comment. Christina, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment. And Sergeant Dowd, I want to thank you for taking our questions, but also thank SPD in general. I think we are in a very unfortunate situation in this country right now, and it's forcing local police departments to be put in a very precarious situation. And every interaction that I have had with SPD has been positive. And it's unfortunate that, I see people making comments on social media or other places, negative comments. And it must be very hard for all of you right now. And I appreciate the work you do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words and your acknowledgement.
I will also say briefly, for folks again listening, Oregon sanctuary law was passed in '87. We were the first state in the country to have a law like that. It's been updated to have more teeth that provide protections for people, and sanctuary laws have been a demonstrable net good in terms of safety and prosperity for local communities across the board. But 87 came on the heels of intense anti-migrant campaigns in Oregon, where anywhere between 9,000 and 11,000 people were deported between 1979 and 1983. A lot of people were deported, and sometimes dozens by the day. And so, I just really want to remind people around the need to come together and find creative solutions to support our communities and to bolster the safety nets that exist already and haven't always existed, but were created to meet moments like the one that we're living in before. And I think, we have to come together to do that again. And I just do want to appreciate again your time tonight, Sergeant Dowd, and for what you do in our community every day. And so thank you for being here and entertaining our questions. Are there any others for Sergeant Dowd tonight? Okay. Thank you, Sergeant Dowd.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. I'm going to step to the back of the room, but I'll remain here for the remainder of the meeting tonight.
Thank you. All right. In a way, 4D and 4E pair together. regarding the future of HRC committees and task forces, as well as the election of the new chair and vice chair. So I might introduce them both, I guess, in tandem in this way. We have a problem, two problems. One is our wonderful staff person, Chris Snyder, is liaison to how many boards and commissions, Chris?
Or
Oh, I thought it was more than that. I thought we was like 5 or 6. So
it's there.
with Gretchen becoming entering her new role, personnel are being asked to take on a lot more work. And so, that, 4, it may be even more, who knows, boards and commissions that Chris supports is obviously part of his job, but it is almost like more than his job, because we ask him to be available many nights of the month to support the activities of each of the respective boards and commissions. He's balancing agendas and incorrigible chairs like myself who are asking him to do things that we want him to do. And so the truth is, this commission has enjoyed a lot, kind of an increasing amount of autonomy and ability to meet. And with the, I think there was a point where we were meeting like 4 or 5 nights a month across all the different committees, and it's a lot of hours of time of preparation and of course work on staff's part. But I think we're entering a moment where there needs to be kind of a reevaluation of that work, if no other reason than to make sure that Chris, sees his family and has a life. And so we did meet with staff, we being the vice chair and I and Chris and Gretchen met. And we've kind of been thinking about how to do this. And so I want to bring that conversation to this commission to get a sense of feedback and direction, which will ultimately be implemented and practiced by the chair, which will be elected here in a few minutes. But what we had discussed was a couple of things. One is some work done by some committees might be considered seasonal, or at least not regular. I'm thinking in particular of the Community Engagement Committee, which, while it does many amazing things, other than this, it predominantly focuses on the conception and implementation and kind of evaluation of the Community Belonging Survey, which is an annual process, which is pretty well defined at this point in the spring and summer. And then, the LGBTQ plus committee does Trans Day of Remembrance, has other things on its mind, healthcare forums, etc. And then this, disability rights, soon to be a committee, formerly task force, has all of its work ahead of itself, and so we're trying to balance, the urgency of all the things that we know need to be done, that we commit ourselves to doing every year, and the community expects of us, as they should, with, again, this reality, this constraint that we have around staff time and capacity. And so the proposal is this: that we consolidate meetings to right before the general commission meeting, and that the committees, as priorities allow, needn't to meet monthly. So what does that mean? So, for example, people. So on 1 month it may be that the Community Engagement Committee meets, and on the next month it may be that the LGBTQA committee meets, and they are allotted rather, a certain amount of time to meet and to conduct business that would then close, and then you'd open up the commission meeting. So for context, for those who are faithful watchers of the city council meeting are very familiar with this structure. You have, Salem Housing Authority meeting that opens and closes. You have other meetings that council members have to attend, other business that they have to attend to. Sometimes there's even as many as two. They meet, they conduct the business. Sometimes there's a lot, sometimes there's little on the agenda. Sometimes the meetings last, in other words, 2 minutes or an hour. They close the board meeting and then they open up a council meeting and they conduct business. Now this presents the challenge of these commission meetings may not begin on time. So, if there's a lot of business, so say we start at what time? 6. So, say we set committee meetings to start at 5 or 5:30. There may be less than a half an hour of business. There may be an hour of business. There may be, so we may run into the 6 o'clock start time. So there's a certain amount of grace that I hope people will extend to. Again, it's just a proposal. You don't have to agree to this as a body, but there's a certain amount of grace that I would hope we would extend to members of the task forces and commissions to maybe extend it, hopefully never egregiously, but extend into a general commission meeting. This also allows two things that I think are net positives. It may allow for more members of the General Commission to actively participate in committees and task forces. And it may save time in the commission because people who are members and attending the General Commission will be listening in part to the business of the committee before them. And so in terms of updates, there may be need less to be shared. Which brings me to my second unfortunate news. I'm calling it unfortunate because I think it's a loss to our community. The city attorney's office, as of very recently, is interpreting membership requirements differently than it ever has before. Historically, non-commission members have been able to be members on committees and task forces. The city attorney's office is no longer allowing that. You have to be a member of the General Human Rights Commission to be a member of a committee or task force. That is our new guidance by the city attorney's office. Now, for those of you, I'm looking at you, Tony and Haley, who sat for months on a task force and all your alarm bells are going off. What did we, this ruling is not, or this interpretation is not being applied retroactively. So in other words, don't worry. Like, all the work that we've done is robust and substantive, and no one is anxious about it, other than it will be strictly enforced moving forward. So that means, for example, Haley, just to use you as not to single you out, but you contributed wonderfully to the task force. You're interested in being on the commission. You've expressed interest in being on a Disability Rights Committee moving forward. You wouldn't be allowed to participate in that committee, save your membership on the commission. You'd have to be a member on the commission before being a member on the committee. Okay. All right, I'm done. So in summary, we do need to find a restructuring, and we need to limit membership to members of the commission. All right, before we talk about all of this, are there any questions about what I've just shared? I see Christina's hand. Go ahead.
Christina's got a question here, but I was also going to make a statement that members of the public can still participate in the subcommittee discussions and stuff like that. They can still make recommendations, stuff like that. It's just the members of the HRC commission, the commissioners only, are the ones that have the voting rights and the ultimate direction of being the end-all, say-all for what direction the subcommittee goes to bring back to the HRC as a full commission. So that has not changed. That aspect is still there and alive and well.
That's a valuable addition. Thank you, Chris. Christina.
Maybe I missed it because I did space out for a second, but you mentioned the Community Engagement Committee and the LGBTQIA plus committee. What are the plans for the Disability Rights Task Force moving forward?
Yeah, we discussed that. So just to reiterate, the Disability Rights task force is to become a disability rights committee, to continue the work of implementing and enforcing the recommendations and overseeing, I should say, the work of all the recommendations. So all that work is still ahead of that. So there'll be a chair for that committee. There'll be members of that committee. They'll be doing meetings with city staff and community leaders. And in a way, I anticipate there being a lot of labor there, immediately in the coming months. That has not been well, I think it's been formally established, but it hasn't been there. We don't have our members yet, and we don't have our time because we've been juggling for the last few weeks, 6 weeks or so. It's like this big question mark of how do we successfully do the work of these 3 committees. And so, for example, again, I don't want to get too in the details because I want people to react to this, but before I really add, but I'm just going to say it out loud. So, for example, if we determine that the work of the Disability Rights Task or Committee rather is just so much that it really has to meet monthly as opposed to every other month, then it may be that on even months the community engagement committee meets. They have 15-30 minutes of business that closes, and we open up a disability rights committee. They do their business, that closes, and then we have general commission meeting, and that opens up their business. That may be every month there's a disability rights committee meeting, and it just follows the other committee on the month that it meets. That may be an option. But what I think more than anything, what I really want to impart is there's a need by staff to consolidate days of the week that they devote to having these meetings after hours. That's a very real, finite need. So anyways, I've talked more maybe than I ever have, and that's terrible. So anybody have any questions or reactions to any of that? Commissioner Roche, please.
What are the guidelines with the city and the chairs having conversation about what happens with the commission without the rest of the members present?
Say that differently. I don't understand your question.
What I heard you say was that the chair and vice chair had a conversation with the city regarding the workload, et cetera, and you guys essentially made a decision.
No.
No? Okay.
So
that's why I was trying to figure out, how does that work?
Nope. I'm just bringing an issue to the commission. So I offered something that we had thought about together with staff, but the chair, part of the chair and the vice chair's responsibility is to meet with staff and make sure that the work of the commission continues and the agendas are planned and that we're being responsive to the needs of both the commission and staff. So in that spirit, Robert and I met with Gretchen and Chris, as we do pretty frequently. And
got it. Okay.
And so when we talked about kind of the needs of staff, and we're bringing that to the full body right now.
Okay, that makes sense. So in one of the what you proposed, it almost reminds me of how they grouped together the council and then the other 2 committees. I love that structure because there's not oftentimes that you have to say a whole lot, and it can be pretty quick. Personally, I think that's a fabulous idea, depending on the start time, because 5 o'clock or even 5:30 can be a little challenging on my end to commit to. But so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. I think, or Commissioner O'Shea, I think maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth to say if I'm wrong. Someone might say, "Hey, I really like that idea, but maybe the 6 to 8 time for the commission is not reasonable, or maybe not necessary all the time. Maybe we should only meet for an hour and a half instead of 2 hours, and maybe we start at 5:30 or 6 o'clock for the other stuff, and we roll till 8." I mean, that could be a suggestion. But it's just a matter of budgeting your time, So, so I don't know. Maybe that's something you might think or not think, Commissioner O'Shea. But to your point, 5 is maybe hard for people who work. I know it is. It would be for me. So, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is it the same? Like, if we were to go long, do we have to be like, I motion to extend this meeting for 15 minutes or whatever? Like, would we have to do that here? Or if we need to go long, occasionally we are able to?
The answer to that is I'm not sure what it is. Previously, we had a member who required ALS interpretation, and we had them until 8, and so it had to be done by 8, basically, and we had to like pay people and do so. But I actually don't know in terms of rules. Um, Chris, um, I'd have to look at the rules. So do you have a sense, Chris, of what
Yeah.
is required?
The rules as well, but if the 8 o'clock, if we're bumping up against the 8 o'clock timeframe, then yeah, not to give a carte blanche, but if it's just occasional, the topic is good and we want to keep on rolling. I don't know that we have any issues unless, council doesn't do it until they hit the 10 o'clock timeframe. And then at that point, they start going, okay, 10 o'clock, okay, we're going to do another 15 minutes or another half hour type thing.
Yeah.
Or was it 9 o'clock? I forget, but somewhere around there.
So to give you maybe a historical sense, although my historical sense is only 4 years or so on the commission, um, there's only been maybe 3 or 4 occasions, and they were kind of grouped together, where we ever went beyond 2.5 hours. Um, I know we normally meet for 2 hours, but I'm just to give you a sense of even more than 2.5 hours has been very rare in my experience. Although we have gone almost like 4 hours. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the longest one was. Um, but that's when you have 100 people who are giving public comment about something. So I guess the only thing I might add of substance would be is probably the discretion of whomever is chair. Most things are in the bylaws at the discretion of the chair. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Are there any proposals or reactions or any direction people would like to give? I'm not sure if it necessarily amounts to a full proposal or a motion, but are there any preferences that people have about? Go ahead, Haley.
I just have to agree with Commissioner Jackie that um, for the people who work, I know a lot of us are 8 to 5s or 9 to 5s, something like that. So 5 o'clock start time would be real hard, sometimes even a 5:30.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jackie.
Sorry, one more thought.
Don't apologize.
Talking about increasing how many people are on the commission. If we are limited to only members on the different task force and committees that we have, would it be worth having that discussion in a request to the city to increase? Because that's a lot of capacity. It could take a lot of capacity to do, for example, the disability task force, that whole thing that you guys did that I wasn't here for, but it sounded like it was pretty intense. And
Yeah.
the belonging survey and like all the things that you guys do. So we don't have to discuss it necessarily now, but it might be worth talking about.
Yeah, thank you for that. A couple reactions. One is when we're fully complemented, there are 15 members. We're rarely fully complemented. Um, so as much as we have encouraged public membership of committees and task force in the past, they're rarely a majority. And the only time where they have been a really big majority has been for the Disability Rights Task Force. And that was intentional. But I would say functionally, committees have really been 3, 4 members. Um, and that's been okay. But I understand the concern.
This is Vice Chair Marshall. I would also like to add, if we start exploring the adding, essentially the number of members we're allowed to have, it then also increases what our quorum limit is. And at fully complemented and everything, we have 15 spots and there's only 6 people that are logged into this meeting at this time. So if we start increasing that and everything, if we were to even increase by 1, we wouldn't have quorum right now. So.
Yeah. I would say, generously, there's usually like a pretty reliable core of commissioners, Jackie, that are really engaged. But there's usually a kind of a rotating, cast of characters outside of that. Go ahead, Tony.
Um, well, as I'm processing what we're talking about, off the top of my head, because I'm looking online and I'm not finding it while trying to track our conversation. How many members are we allowed to have right now?
15 members for the commission. I think there are currently 11, 12.
11.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Um,
10.
Oh, 10 because Mike resigned. Yeah, 10.
okay, so we have 10. We need a third more, or we need a half more. We're missing a third of our commission through vacancy. What are the ways that the city tries to recruit for this, and how can we improve on that?
That is a great question. Chris, do you want to take a stab at that answer?
Sorry, repeat the question again.
Yes, I wanted to know what are the ways that the city uses to recruit members for this commission? And can we discuss ways to improve on that so that we can get the full third of this body that we need to do the work that we'd like to do?
So great question. Thank you for the question. The city has a website, on the website, the city's website, they do have a volunteer page where they talk about and encourage those individuals who are looking to volunteer their time to learn about the different boards and commissions where they can do that. And there is an application, and there's also usually a list of vacancies for the different boards and commissions on there. Now, it's not always kept up to date due to staffing, time frames and availabilities where the city manager's office is short one of the positions that would normally take care of that. And so other staff are stepping up trying to keep things up to date, as well as all the staff liaisons to the various boards and commissions. Part of their role and responsibility is to make sure that their website for each one of those boards and commissions is up to date with the number of vacancies and that kind of stuff. As far as promotions, we do rely a lot on the current existing board members and commissioners to advocate for, reaching out to the community and friends and family that are interested in the same topics and work that the volunteers do to recruit individuals and send them over to the city's webpage for applying. I don't know if we have anything more that we put out on social media or not, or on our community connections weekly email. But those are other locations where I think the city can improve on that if we're not already doing that. Haley, you have a hand up? Does that answer your question, Tony? Commissioner?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I heard about the Human Rights Commission. I think I met Joaquin a couple years ago at Pride at the Park. I think he was working a booth. And so that's how I heard about it. And then I know we had at that time really quickly discussed how there was possibly going to be a disability task force. And I had signed up to get information into my email. So I know that's how I originally got, or this whole everything came to my attention.
And see, I didn't even know that story. There you go. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's wonderful. We do limit it, but it's not as robust, Tony, as we would like it to be. Comms has been an area of growth for the city. I will say though, however, Tony, that the Salem Reporter recently wrote a little thingy about the role of boards and commissions and the army of volunteers, they keep the city running, or whatever it is that however they framed it. It was wonderfully written. I don't mean to disparage the writing, but to my point, it was a good reminder of kind of the work of boards and commissions, and may be useful to folks if they want to share it to, with people who may be interested in volunteering their time. But
Would you like me to send that back out to you? I think the city has a PDF of that article, I think.
oh yeah, that'd be
That
cool.
would be awesome. Well, then I'd like to make a motion that we have a discussion about how to improve our recruiting policy and procedure.
Okay, like a motion to have it be an agenda item for next month's meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Jackie seconds.
all right. Motion
This
by
is
Tony.
so
second-
needed for the entire council, or for all of them.
I agree. To your motion, Commissioner Marys?
Well, okay, so I made the motion. Commissioner Roche seconded it. So shall we take a vote to see if we're going to put this on our agenda for next month?
Sure, but to your motion is an opportunity for you just to speak to your motion briefly.
Oh.
Should you desire, you don't have to.
Well, I think this is something that we need to commit a little bit of time to. And I think that if we take the next month, we can all maybe have this on our mind and come up with some ideas to come back with next month. Like my first thought is Salem Saturday Market starts up next month. I'm pretty sure they would allow us to have a booth if the city could help us set that up. I would be more than willing to sign up to man that for a Saturday. I'd even be willing to do it one Saturday a month if it would help. But I think that we are at a point where if we have a vacancy rate of 33 and a third % of participation, that we owe it to the city and ourselves to put it forth some effort to fill those seats and bring bodies to the table and bring more ideas and more conversation and more collaboration and more problem solving.
All right. Any questions for Commissioner Marys? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. So motion passes. So thank you, Commissioner Marys. I will say maybe one or two things, and then we'll transition to the elections. Partly this is a bridge. What you've just described sounds an awful like the work of the Community Engagement Committee, and the work that we have to do there. And partly we've had fits and starts of that work in the past. At one point, I had this master plan of we would every month we'd have a different group of folks going out to different boroughs, different parts of Salem, and doing a bunch of outreach. And we had a great first showing. Selena and I drove around together going down to downtown. And then we couldn't do it after that. And the idea maybe was ambitious. Maybe that was our fault, maybe moderating that and getting it more practical. And like every month we will be at the Saturday market is more realistic. But what I share that to say that here's the bridge. I share that to say we need people, members of the commission, to be engaged in the leadership and work of this body. So that brings me to that can mean running for chair or vice chair, but I think more practically it also means being chair of a committee, taking ownership and agency of the work of a sub body and seeing it through. We're at a moment in the commission's history here where we have only a few kind of long-standing members, so our institutional memory is a little precarious. We have a lot of new energy and interest, and that's really exciting because new perspectives bring a lot of new ideas and possibly new direction for the commission. But it's also a little worrying because it means that you want to ensure that there's kind of a steady course to the work as well, because we do a lot I think a lot of good things, and some things are pretty institutionalized, for lack of a better term. So that being said, I've spent 2 years as chair of this body, and every year we have elections, and um, I think it's time for someone else to do this work. Um, and I'm really grateful for all of you and the time and energy that you do commit and have committed and will continue to commit to this work. I look forward to serving the balance of my term, which ends in December of this year, with you all as a member of the commission. But again, it is time, I think, um, for new leadership in this way. And so that brings us to the elections. Um, the elections here are pretty simple. So the only positions that are elected for the commission are the position of chair and vice chair. Chairs of committees and task forces are appointed by the chair of the commission. Um, they can technically do that without any input whatsoever from the commission. I historically have not done that. So depending on who becomes chair, be prepared for that leadership style or not, I don't know. And then there are no, unfortunately, self-nominations. So you have to be nominated by someone else for the position of chair or vice chair. Elections will kind of work this way. We'll open the position of chair first, and then the position of vice chair second for nominations. Whomever is nominated will be able to accept or not accept that nomination. Even if there are no competitive positions, meaning even if only one person is nominated for chair or vice chair, I'm still going to ask you to give a little stump speech to talk about your vision for the position. And even if you're the only one being nominated for the position or only candidate for position, rather, we will still call a vote. It'll be a roll call vote where we'll go, Commissioner Ballard, Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Mary, and Chris will run that, and then you will either affirmatively or not cast your vote for the position. So, any questions about that process? I'm going to cough for effect, and then with that, I will open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. I would encourage people to nominate whoever they feel would be best, and then you can accept or not accept, and then we'll go from there. Commissioner Roche.
Is there a way to share a screen of the current list of the members?
We have an agenda for tonight that Chris was
Oh.
sharing me a little while ago that has that information. Chris, if you wanted to share that. Basically, everyone who's present is a member. Excuse me, everyone here is, except for Haley, is a possible candidate, plus Diane, Ashley, Caitlin, and Kira. Shoot, Caitlin left. Do we have a quorum?
I don't think that we do.
You have 6.
We have 6? Okay, so that we do have a quorum. Okay, perfect. All right. So you're sharing, there we go. There we go.
There's the list.
So everyone on the participants section is a candidate except for Mike, who resigned earlier this month.
All right. Well, do you mind if I speak up?
Please, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Robert Marshall for chair.
All right, there's a nomination for Robert Marshall. Vice Chair Marshall, do you accept the nomination?
I'm honored for the nomination and I gladly accept.
Thank you, Vice Chair Marshall. Are there any nominations for the position for chair? All right. Hearing none. Vice Chair Marshall, your stump speech, please.
Well, I didn't come prepared for a stump speech. But my reasons behind accepting the nomination, there are several. I feel since my appointment, which I don't remember when I was first appointed to the HRC, I feel like the Human Rights Commission, everything has come a long way. We've accomplished a lot of great things for our community. I look back at some of the events that we've been able to host, such as a homeless services forum to bring community partners to educate individuals about resources that are being provided. Just recently, the Know Your Rights Forum, we've been able to continuously host Transgender Day of Remembrance, but the challenges still lie ahead of us. Our community, as well as communities around us, have yet to effectively address our housing crises. We have people that are currently sleeping outside on sidewalks, even just outside of this building, and being able to bring awareness to those challenges and help advise the city council. I see that being an imperative mission of the Human Rights Commission. We have immigration enforcement activities and everything occurring in our communities and everything that are really causing a lot of fear and harm to our neighbors. And it is a challenge that I feel is only going to get worse, and a opportunity that I think the Human Rights Commission and everything has a great role in. I look to the Disability Rights Task Force, the work that we've done, really just a continuity of continuing the work that we've accomplished. Being able to, establish some data visualization tools to share the great work that we're doing, the community belonging survey. There's a lot of work that lie ahead. There's a lot of work and everything that we've done up to this point, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve as the chair and kind of steer this body in that direction, everything in the forward direction. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any questions for the Vice Chair? All right. Will the staff please call the roll?
Chair Metcalf,
Yes, aye.
Chair Ballard,
Aye.
Chair Coleman, Chair Marys,
Aye.
Chair Rocher.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you all. Congratulations, Chair Marshall. I just want to take a moment briefly to extend my gratitude and appreciation for Chair Marshall's willingness to step into this additional role of leadership in our community. I've been very grateful to his partnership as vice chair during my tenure, and to see the wonderful work and energy that he's brought to the commission. Really grateful for his continued work in this new capacity, and for all that he does in the city, especially with our communities experiencing houselessness, and just the sensitivity and the discretion with which he brings that service to our communities is really, really meaningful to me, and I think a huge boon to the work of this body, and really excited for what he'll champion during his tenure. So thank you, Chair Marshall, for that. And actually, I think with that, I may hand it over to you, Robert, to facilitate the election of vice chair.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the election of vice chair. Do we have any nominations for the vice chair position? Commissioner Coleman.
I'll nominate Christina Ballard.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Ballard, your stump speech.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
Actually-
nominating me. Yes, and I accept the nomination. I agree with everything that Robert, our new chair, said in his stump speech, I think that we are facing a time where our work is going to be very important and we have a lot of work to do. I have some extra time to contribute. And I am looking forward to engaging with the community more and working more on the things that the Disability Rights Committee, the LGBTQIA plus committee, and the Community Engagement Committee can be doing. I've seen, I've really enjoyed being a part of the commission so far and enjoyed getting to know everyone, and especially hearing from community members when I was out doing listening sessions. I think our role in the current climate, cultural climate, is going to be very important. And I am willing to commit more time to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ballard. Before we take this to a vote, are there any other nominations for the position of Vice Chair to the Human Rights Commission? Seeing no additional nominations, we'll call the roll call vote for Commissioner Ballard. Staff, can you please call that vote?
Commissioner Mitkiff,
Aye.
Chair Marshall,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Marys,
Aye.
Commissioner Roche.
Aye.
Vote is unanimous.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ballard, I want to thank you for stepping into the role as Vice Chair. I look forward to working closely with you as we take the commission to as we take the commission, I think, to the next level. I've enjoyed serving with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed your engagement, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that you never hesitate to ask the tough questions. And I think oftentimes anything that is needed. And so I appreciate, I look forward to serving with you in that. Before we move on anything to the rest of the agenda, I do want to just take a moment and everything to acknowledge Commissioner Lara Mitkiff's work to the Human Rights Commission. He's poured a lot of time into this body and everything since he started. He honestly, for me, anything has been just a tremendous mentor and a source of light as I came up into the commission, as I've kind of tried gathering my footing, even as vice chair. And it's just been a real pleasure being able to work with him and, to see his contributions to the community. And I look forward to, serving another year with him and everything on this commission. I look forward to tapping into his skills as we continue our conversations around immigration, and then just continuing to make sure that the city of Salem is a place and a city that is accessible and inclusive and welcoming for all individuals. So thank you, Commissioner Lara Mitkiff.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
All right, moving on, we will committee project and updates, Community Engagement Committee. So I just want to follow up on one thing. I had a chance to sit down and talk with Professor Bradshaw, who is the professor from Western Oregon University. Her class, I believe, data-driven decision-making, has partnered with the Human Rights Commission for the last several years to host a community belonging survey. So we had a chance to talk about that survey and next steps, and I plan for the next meeting to be able to come with a proposed list of questions and the next steps on how we start advertising and drumming up engagement for that survey. So that's all I have. Any questions about that committee update? Seeing none, we will move on to the Disability Rights Task Force.
No update, Chair. We haven't met, but I think after our conversation today, look forward to meeting, convening the committee and figuring out a path forward. So thank you.
Thank you. The LGBTQIA plus committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Pressey. I don't have any updates there. I believe it's been a minute since we've convened, but I will ask staff if they have any updates in that committee. All right. All right. So no updates for the LGBTQIA plus committee meeting. Moving on to staff updates.
There was an inquiry. I'll pass that along. Irma Coleman, who is the Neighborhood Association's liaison, shared with me an outreach from, I think it was Salem Kaiser, for an event coming up in the future. No date or time specified yet, but they are looking for an interested speaker from the Human Rights Commission to attend. I'll try and get more information and pass that along to you, just FYI.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, moving on. Member remarks and announcements. Seeing no member remarks and announcements, this commission meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.